Good afternoon. Wanted to talk about this again at a more reasonable hour, and that being the free Kriegsspiel idea. This isn't really all that new, but I don't really see it talked about, at least in the circles that I get presented by social media, which I think in its own right is something to quickly mention, is that I see a lot of people talking about things um, being discovered or rediscovered. But the thing is that even though this is a niche industry or a niche hobby or whatever, um, you don't get to see it all. I'm also big into retro games, and every once in a while I'll come across, and I'm thinking I know all those games or remember them all and have a knowledge of them. But every once in a while I'll come across something and go, I didn't even know that existed. Some 1982 obscure game or something like that. So, and you may be a long-time hobbyist and still not be aware of this just because it didn't come across your perception for whatever number of reasons. And that's free Kriegsspiel. It's just a real simple concept um, of not using rules, basically. I thought I sometimes I question my ability to articulate, and that's why I'm doing these videos. So let's try looking at other people's words. Let's also try going to the right. Okay, we'll try that again. You got to go to the right thing. My bad. Okay. There we go. It's all about clicking the right button. Okay. So I think this Reddit post does it a lot of good justice here, or whatever, however you say that. Free Kriegsspiel tends to be very minimalistic rules-wise, in that there can be no rules really, opposed 2d6 rules are common. I don't know that that's the case. That seems like something that the particular individual writing this put in. There doesn't have to be dice. Now, a lot of people go, well, wait a minute, and I know most people want some dice. Part of the fun is shaking the dice. So, and I'm completely in agreement with that. I have played deterministic games, and they're not as bad as some people seem to think they are, but they're certainly not. Most people don't want that. So what I do is I can come up with some very basic type of system so that there's a dice rolling component, and dice rolling component for only things. Well, let's just go on first so you can get the rest of the concept. Okay, FKI, free Kriegsspiel strips out the rules in order to increase realism. Look, that's something that I don't want to get into that, but needless to say, that trope is not really. Anyway, the idea that rules are restrictive, bad rules are restrictive, I suppose, but that's a matter of philosophical outlook that I don't really agree with. The point of the free Kriegsspiel for me is this, is that there's a lot of people who do complain about rules a lot. And there are people whom I think would be interested in playing war games, but they have a variety of rules-related complaints. They don't believe the rules are well articulated, well designed. They're too complicated to either play or to understand. They use the word complexity to kind of, I never really understood why, but that word doesn't, some people go, well, that word just means there's a lot of moving parts, but it really, okay, but in reality, it's this label that people slap onto everything, and it could be the motivation or the thought process that led them to invoke that cliche. There's a myriad of things, and I'm trying to circumvent most of them. Come to think of it, I'm not too thrilled with that, some of that statement, but let's go to another one. Well, yeah. Anyway, the point is, I guess I have my slideshow not organized as well as I did, but really all you're looking at here is, where the hell did that go? Saw it listed as being a high trust game, which is fair enough. Right here. I am looking at the wrong. So an old man gets confused while giving talk. High trust style in that if you believe in your DM to know the material or know the thing the system you're in or the world you're in, then you don't need the rules. Just trust in their ability to arbitrate things. Certain things really don't need rules. One of the examples that was using was rope. Do I really need to explain or have a whole bunch of things about using a rope to tie a knot or something like that? No. You can just understand the world you're in and the physics that surround it. They're not all the same. There's the real world and its physics, and then there's BattleTech, which may have some different physics, things like that. But this is one of the things that always gets me when people go, how can you be upset about lack of realism in a fantasy world? Yeah, that's kind of snarky. The thing is that all these worlds have their own rules about them, their own, Superman can fly in DC Comics, stuff like that. So there's always some physics system surrounding it, even if they don't apply to the real world. And going back to BattleTech, if you can't fire every weapon all the time, you overheat. And I suppose you could scientifically explain why that is, but it's a little bit harder to be an engineering expert and describe how a 30-foot tall bipedal machine, is standing upright and not crushing under the weight of itself and stuff like that. So the point is that your world and what can and can't be done, or the way things work enough as a DM in a free Kriegsspiel game just to give out a ruling without having to page through. Probably the easiest way to say it is it's rule zero. It's the same type of idea. The difference is that it just seems to me that a lot of people that use the phrase rule zero just mean, I don't want to have to play a game. I only want to say I'm playing a game. Basically, what I want to do is tell a story. And it may be mildly interactive with the people who are hearing the story. That's just my perception of people that use that. I could be wrong, but with a free Kriegsspiel, it doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't rules. I could do free Kriegsspiel with, say, Panzerleader or Dungeons and Dragons. The whole point of it, though, is at least from my perspective and what I'm trying to do, is just alleviate the player from having to learn this stuff. You want to play Panzerleader? Well, I would, but that thing was, and you get all these, it was kind of difficult and unclear. It wasn't very well edited rule set or whatever. So never mind. All I need to teach you to play Panzerleader with a free Kriegsspiel outlook is, what does the counter mean? And for some people, that may be too complicated. But you know what? Like I say, the word complexity it just becomes, I think it becomes, I don't want to do it, which is fine. Why don't you just say you don't want to do it? But that's all you would need to do is be familiarized with those chits. Or in the case of Panzerleader or some of the other ones, just as an example, and it might be some old antique you don't want to touch, but could play that on Tabletop Simulator with three-dimensional models, and you wouldn't even have to learn the counters. All you'd have to know is, I mean, you have to understand some history. You have to understand how these weapon systems work to some degree, in that I understand that a tank is made to do this. I understand that an artillery piece is made to do that. You know, if you don't have that knowledge, you're going to have to learn that no matter what. But you won't have to learn how to, calculate attack factor divided by defense factor, modified by conditions, convert to ratio, all that. You just have a GM that says, what do you want to do? Okay, you did that. Here's what happened. And you move on. So it makes a very fast game. It makes an interesting game for the player in that they can focus on the fun and not the rules. They can just fight their units, make the interest. I've heard games in general, but war games even more specifically, people have invoked this phrase often. It's a series of interesting decisions. And if that series of interesting decisions is broken up by 20 minutes of mathematical calculation or lookup tables, that's why people go, those are so complicated. Yeah, I get it. Now they don't have to be. The secret to wargaming and enjoying it has always been having a arbitrator, having a DM or a GM or whatever acronym you want to, or phrase you want to use, referee, judge, whatever. If somebody's doing that, then the players are free to just focus on the battle. The reason that hasn't been done a lot, I think, is that there isn't a profession to do it. There isn't a service to do it. When the computer came, the computer became that person or that entity or that section of it. And that's why most people just, or not most, but a lot of people, well, maybe it was most, I don't really have any numbers, but people left for video games because they say, well, look, I can have Fog of War. I can have an opponent. I don't need to set up. I don't need to clean up. A book that comes with a video game tends to be, this big, and a book that, comes with a war game tends to be a bit larger. And you really don't need to know that much about what's going on as far as the computer is calculating things. That said, most people, well, here again, I use the term most, and I have no knowledge to back it up as most, but I know a lot of people that definitely go, well, I want to know how the computer comes up with all these answers. And so a lot of computer game manuals have that explanation, or at least or some summary of it. But I've seen long-winded forum posts from the past, breaking down the mathematical processes that the software uses to come up with this conclusion, and then being highly critical of it. So I always found that an interesting thing. So people want to know how the sausage is made, and I think that's why the free Kriegsspiel people go, well, rules are complicated, but, and then they look at playing with a judge and they go, well, does he really know what he's talking about? Is he really going to be neutral? And I just go, why wouldn't he or she be? What would be the motivation to to, favoritism, what, sweethearting because you like player B more than you like A? I mean, maybe, I guess. I just don't see it. But if you have a service that does it, then, I mean, I suppose you could still cry foul, but it would be in the best interest of the service to provide a good experience and be a professional, neutral arbiter of the conflict. And by doing that, you instead of having a gigantic, by the way, I forgot to see if anybody's even seeing this, and they're not. So, but anyway, you don't need to make an investment. Like I said last time I made this, I went into a Games Workshop retail store. God, this a long time ago. Second edition was the thing. That's how long. And I was showing somebody that I was working with how this, the whole thing. So what I did is I went in there and I presented myself as somebody who was interested in playing. I already had second edition, but I says, just set me up with everything I need to start this hobby. And my arms were bundled filled with the starter kit, the paints, a couple of squads, all these pieces. I think it retailed at the time to like $150, $180 to buy in, according to that company. Wow. And some people, that's no big deal. And good for you. I'm glad you're doing well in life. But for other people, they're thinking, man, come on. And in today's dollars, what would that be? Twice that. So for a minimal amount of money, comparatively, you can have a singular experience or a group experience if you want, or recurring one if you want to play a longer campaign, where somebody hired through my company. I think the 40K had something similar. It was called Outrider program or something like that, where you'd come in and you'd say, okay, I'm going to set this up for you. I'm going to run it as a neutral judge and let you guys have all the fun. And you don't have to worry about learning the rules. I think the Outrider was meant to teach you the rules, whereas ours are meant to just alleviate you from having to learn them at all. So you can just sit down and play whatever you want. I use Panzer Leader because I'm old and I play a lot of it, but it could, insert whatever game tickles your fancy, but you can sit down and play it with people whom we're going, well, I'd love to play war games, but, I don't want to get my butt kicked. I don't want to have to learn a bunch of stuff. I don't want to have to pay a bunch of money. All of the above, whatever. So that's all that the basis of it works. That's the service and what free Kriegsspiel really means. Pardon me. Summer. I see people out there, or at least my register indicates them, but I don't know how accurate that is. But anybody have anything to say? Any questions? Anything like that? If you're on Twitter, right now I'm on YouTube and Twitter. If you're on Twitter, I don't know that I can reply via text. It's kind of got a weird system that way. So drop a comment or question in the reply to the post that you saw this in. And please like and repost. I share the love, man. Help a brother out, however you want to put it. I could use the word being spread. It really would appreciate you doing that. But if you're on YouTube, I can interact with you. You can post a comment or a question or a comment in the little text box to your right, and I can answer any questions you have. So, that's pretty much the whole thing. I do have some examples of it. They're videos. They're on my YouTube page. There's a young lady that was playing with me, and she was trying it for the first time. It was a scenario about jumping into Normandy with the Screaming Eagles in honor of the 80th anniversary, and she played commanding an ad hoc squad of soldiers. There was virtually no rules. It was just a role-playing experience. She did roll dice to, shoot at targets and stuff, though. We had at least that much of a set of rules, very simple things. She didn't really have to pay much attention to them. Just roll the die and try to get a high score, and you'll get your target. Other than that, it was just a role-playing exercise and a military exercise. Here's your target. Here's what you have to eliminate it. Here's your approach line, so on and so forth. That was all there was to it. Real simple stuff. And she's never played that kind of war game ever. I think she said she played Battleship and Stratego with her brother. And that was about it. The closest thing to a war game she had played prior to that was Clone Campaigns on the computer. Pardon me sipping on the mic, but the weather has got me dry as a bone, and I want to stop stumbling over my words. I believe there's 2 videos of her playing, if I remember correctly. And there's a little bit of me doing it as well. If I play it, there'll be an echo, but at least I can direct you to where it is on my page. This is the Campaigns and Conquests. That's the name of my show. There you go. So there's free Kriegsspiel from last night. Here's some of the campaigns and conquests. There'll be more put up as well. But here, the Normandy show, that shows me showing the small combat system that goes along with this that I use. And there'll be more put out of me and the young lady playing the Normandy. So you can see it in action. Probably about 15 minutes worth or something like that. So anybody else got anything, questions, comments, criticisms? Everybody's on Twitter, I see. Okay. So that could mean that you're there or not. Probably not. Well, let's see if I can scrounge up some more people before I get anywhere else with this. Oops, that's not what we don't want to see the politics that won't go away. Yeah. All right. I guess it'll do. We're just going to keep running these little talks, refine, polish, work on clarity, and keep talking about this idea. And hopefully it'll get a little traction. Till next time.